Now, the interesting thing that happened while we was doing this, across the road, we had pops, wood knocks, all kinds of crap there. This was after I went in, and yeah, and then I went hiking out, and that had a bit of an interesting moment to it. Of course, you know me; everything's recorded. It may be months. It may be week. It's probably going to be months before you see any of this, because we're going to contact the right people. I don't think it's possible to have documented this any more than what we did. What do you think?
I don't think so. You guys did a hell of a job.
And so, although somehow I managed to get home without all the documentation.
Check it when you stop.
Alright, anyhow, we are leaving Buck Mountain.
Fun place, very pretty.
Yeah, they're driving west, and I'm looking out there, and I'm seeing them clouds. And I'm thinking, oh God, I hope it's not rain clouds. So we're about 3 hours away from our destination.
Crutchfield's normally like home electronics, though, isn't it?
Right,
Like
yes.
stereo.
Yep, yep. And Lorex is a camera maker. I mean, they make cameras. And so, solid company.
We can go all the way to the back, or we can crash down here, or
Solid
what?
company and solid, retailer. So,
It is hard to
you
get
can
into
check
that
out Crutchfield,
spot.
crutchfield.com.
That's what I was thinking. We just pull into here for tonight.
Yep.
They got a thing on their website, Scratch and Dent. I
Right.
think Best Buy does that. They have like open box or something section. You can
Got to be careful because I've actually looked at their scratch and dent reductions, and they're not that great.
Right.
They may take 10 or 20% off.
Yeah,
This sucker was $60.
off of a $1,000 TV.
Right. And their regular retail price of this particular unit was $699.
Right.
So, it was like 60% off what their what their normal price was.
Well, you're not going to keep the box anyway. You're going to toss it. So, what does it matter if the box is going to beat up?
So Brian says, if I have
It's normally like home electronics, though, isn't it?
Right,
Like
yes.
stereo.
Yep. And Lorex is a camera maker. I mean, they make cameras. And so, solid company.
We can go all the way to the back, or we can crash down here, or
Solid
what?
company and solid, retailer. So,
It is hard to
you
get
can
into
check
that
out Crutchfield,
spot.
crutchfield.com.
That's what I was thinking. We just pull into here for tonight.
Yep.
They got a thing on their website, Scratch and Dent. I
Right.
think Best Buy does that. They have like open box or something section. You can
Got to be careful because I've actually looked at their scratch and dent reductions, and they're not that great.
Right.
They may take 10 or 20% off.
Yeah,
This sucker was $60.
off of a $1,000 TV.
Right. And their regular retail price of this particular unit was $699.
Right.
So, it was like 60% off what their what their normal price was.
Well, you're not going to keep the box anyway. You're going to toss it. So,
So, so, so. So, all right, so we've made it to New York, where the hell we're at. Western New York. It's late, obviously, 11 o'clock. We're not going to bother setting up camp. Like I said, shit happens. Nobody's truly at fault, just should have been better thinking. And maybe we should have just... I should have been a little bit more pronounced on how early we needed to really roll.
Well, I didn't think it would take us 3 hours to pack either.
Well, that's a lot of shit.
Is it a lot of shit?
Comes out easy, but then you got to get back in the truck. I had to carry it all back. So, try to move early. I way prefer moving in daylight, because if you have an oopsie, you can recover. Which, that's a big part of this, is watching out for each other and taking care of each other. And, this is day, 5?
Yep.
And I think we're all just kind of like ready to go back to work and get away from each other. Yeah, because I know my wife wants to take a vacation from me. And I could probably take a vacation from her. No offense, honey. Oh, you're right there. Sleeping in the cab. Isn't fun.
That's alright.
But at least we won't have to jump the truck. It's amazing the number of bugs that are inside this vehicle right now. And it would have been nice to gotten out and got some stuff set up, but like I said, a lot of it's buried in the back seat, and it's just... We'll start fresh tomorrow and maybe get some boots on the ground. We'll get moved first thing in the morning. We have prox alarms out. I got one audio recorder out for the night.
I'll try to remember the proximity alarms are out tonight. Well,
what's that? Oh, trust me, I'll be ready to move as soon as that sun breaks. My feet are going to swell up like basketballs because I don't have compression socks on right now. So, maybe we should have just went straight to a hotel for the night. But once you get in this part of New York, you might as well forget finding stuff. It's not easy. Unless you get around Chautauqua or stuff like that. So yeah, we're sitting in the dark. And I just saw something flash out there. I don't know what the hell that was.
Put your windows on the glass.
What's that? It won't work in the glass.
I said you went to put your window down in the glass.
So we're here. Good trip. Turn it off and see what the night brings. So here's the thing. I just watched something tall behind the truck, out past the pontoon or the pavilion. Problem is, the memory's full on my type pad. That was freaking tall, whatever it was. I don't know where it went. That looked tall. That did not look like a bird. It did not look... Ow, it looked like something fucking walking. Unless it was like a deer up on higher hill. You know, beavers flying out there. Need the window down? It's behind us.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if I open this up if you can see it. To the right. It did too. It looked like something walking. The reason why this video took so long is that, like I said, I kind of needed a Bigfoot break. I had a bad November, and as far as hunting and stuff like that, injuries, so forth, and I just needed a break. I needed to catch some air, and you kind of need to do that every now and then. And you know, it doesn't help that one of my favorite stories, Final Fantasy VII. I got wrapped up in that game, and yeah, that took 2 months out. And you know, I know what's going to be seen in the next video for the most part. Didn't think there was a whole lot there. Didn't think that we brought back a whole lot of anything really, other than experiences and some educational stuff. And I was surprised when, well, I had gone through all the audio first, and there was a lot of audio, and listening to every track, and then going through using Audacity now, and I just, either I was lackadaisical or I don't know, just wasn't much there to get excited about as far as I was concerned. And then I finally got to the video portion, and the very first video I pulled up was that thermal, and yeah, I was shocked by what I saw on it. So this is the original video. She started recording 16 seconds in. Time, what time we got there? It was late, 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. And just so you can see the details. Move this controller. There's the detail. September 29th, 2024, 10:08 p.m. That's the closeout, file name, so forth. And you can best believe that I'll be, sending these copies out and having people go over them. But anyhow, the video starts just like any other videos. I'd start going through. I'll pause it. Yeah, looking for hot spots, stuff like that. Anything that stood out. And there was a little bit of a hot spot in there, but I just think that's remnant heat. And yeah, going through it. Speed it up a little bit here. We get to our location, and still got a little bit more to go. Get to our location. Now what we decided to do is back the truck in a parking spot for the night. So I do it like a half turn and then half back up. She's got the thermal sitting out of the camera. You see a couple trees, and then this comes out right there, and then boom, it walks off. So I'm going to pause it right there, bring it back, right in that area. Okay. I'm going to hit edit and try and make it easier to see. Wrong one. So let's see, decrease the brightness. And let's go to contrast first. Increase contrast. Go full. Watch a little bit there. Pause it. Go back. Watch it again. And then we go up. Just going to leave the brightness down a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to temperature. And I'm going to cool it down so that should help to make it really stand out. Okay. And so we're watching right there. You see something's going on right there. And, my first question was, after seeing that, what is that? Is that something that the camera's doing? Is it an issue of life being given by the camera movement? And so I started doing a couple of different experiments to try and get that out of there. Try to get rid of that question. So let's see here. This is kind of hard to operate this way. That's the one I'm after. Yeah, maybe not. Well, okay. No, that's not it. All right. So what I did was I put a line and a dot in there on a specific spot of this road. You can see the road. Let me darken it up. You can see the road right here. And I want to see if that spot is moving independently or, it stays in place longer than this thing moves. There it appeared it did. Because that's what I want to know. I want to know, is this thing showing a life of its own? Or is the camera giving it life? The movement of the camera. And here, from this test, it looked like it was given its own life. Here, what I did was highlight the road. Once again, watching that and comparing it to where we're at on the road. It looks like it's got life. So from that point, it was time to reach out to people with bigger, better equipment than I have, because what I have is a phone. and a microcomputer and see what they find. The person I reached out is a tech person. They're because of their position and the job they do, prefer to remain anonymous. But I had them look through it, and upon their findings, they believe it's bipedal, and this is what they sent me. Person I reached out to was Central Kentucky Bigfoot, formerly Central Florida Bigfoot, retired video journalist Matt Larson.
Okay, Bill, look right here. It's standing there. It's not moving. It's there. It's looking like it's looking to it's coming around to the left side of the frame, around the tree. I'm advancing it. It goes behind the tree. It pokes out to the right. There it is. And watch this arm swing. See the arm swing? I'll back it up. Right there. See the arm swing? He's turning. 1, 2, 3, 4. Going off, and look at that. You can see it freaking go off. Right there, you can almost see the legs separate. Okay, Bill, look right here. It's standing there. It's not moving. It's there. It's looking like it's looking to it's coming around to the left side of the frame, around the tree. I'm advancing it. It goes behind the tree. It pokes out to the right. There it is. And watch this arm swing. See the arm swing? I'll back it up. Right there. See the arm swing? He's turning. 1, 2, 3, 4. Going off, and look at that. You can see it freaking go off. Right there, you can almost see the legs separate.
So after all that, I did one more test. I slowed down one of Matt's to get a good look at it. And again, locking on a space to see if it has life of its own. It has life of its own. So, as opposed to this, okay? I'll pause that. So there's no confusion. All right, when you get back to this, that's a tree. No ifs, ands, or buts. We know that's a tree. In video, I have it as a tree. But anyhow, let me use this one. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to zoom in, back up just a little bit. Okay. So I have it paused. Just going to roll it in real slow. And we're going to start getting a semblance of this thing. All right. So there we have a semblance of it. We see movement. And I became aware of this movement up here. And at one point I was concerned that maybe we're looking at a bear, but I don't believe that's the case. The torso never shows up. And then as this thing locks off, you'll be able to tell. Hopefully it comes across right there. You'll see arm swinging. And if you watch down here, because it's taller than it looks, you'll see leg movement. So, and going back, all right, like I said, it's standing right here. It's actually about this tall all the way up here. And as I move it, the foot area is somewhere down here. But going backwards, you can see it kind of leaned out and looked at us. So, I don't know if maybe this was a hand or something, or if there was two things there. This is also inverse, so with the dark being hot and the lighter color being cold. And you see it it takes off. It takes off quick, full speed. I believe I have this slowed down. Okay, slow motion, up close. Camera starts seeing it. There you go. You can see it looked like legs and everything. I'm not sure if this shows it better. Maybe. Pause that. And like I said, I have looked at this and looked at this in depth. So, and the behavior doesn't match. I'll show you the light moon data for that night. At this time of night, 10 p.m., there was no moon. The trees have a canopy on them. So you're talking about what's considered negative lumen conditions in the woods. And my experience, what we've captured, what we've shown in the past, is that animals like deer hunker down. They just stay in one spot. And that's why I think a lot of these bluff chargers are actually just deer that are hunkering down, and you practically step on them and they take off and scare you. I think a portion of those bluff chargers are that. Not all of them, but some of them. But the rest of the behavior is not consistent with deer. It may be consistent with bear, but I don't think so. I think for the most part, in these conditions, I mean, even the barred owls. If you listen to the audio, when we had a no light condition, the barred owls were quiet. As soon as we had a bit of light, the barred owls went off. So we'll play this here. Okay, we'll go slow here. And a little bit better right there. Leans out, takes off. And this is one of the ones that were done by either the journalist, like right there. Something is looking at us. I mean, look where the head's at and look where the foot's at. And actually, you can tell by motion that's a knee joint. And it just takes off. And taking off like that in a canopy, in the dark, no light, no starlight, no nothing. NVGs, yes, you could probably do it with NVGs with the IR lights on. That's night vision goggles. Really odd behavior for anything else. Like I said, I don't think it's alone. And I really looked at that movement and calculated, as you're going to see, because of this. Now, I don't think it's a quadruped at all. It's either one or more, or just something huge. It could be a hand, I suppose. Could be, and like I said, if you watch some of these, you'll see the legs. He leaned out, looking at us, leans back in, takes off. What it is, I don't know. And as I'll show, if this is a bear, it's ungodly sized bear. Because by all estimations, everything I'm looking at, what I can draw upon, this thing's actually pretty damn big. The question becomes, can I figure out this thing's size? And about where it was at. So what I did was, since it would take a 5-hour trip or a 10-hour round trip to go back to where this was taken. I went through the videos and I found where she had to be looking through in the foliage in order to capture it. And that, and along with a little bit of ingenuity and the knowledge of topography, as well as looking at other videos. So I'm looking at this video that was taken the following day. Okay. I'm walking through the woods. Speed it up for you a little bit. So I know this is a long video. But walk up here a little bit more. I'm going to turn and you'll see that. Okay. So I got to watch it. I love those kind of noises while I'm doing this. But anyhow, you can see there's a cut right in there. And it had to be somewhere on this hillside. So I got that piece of information regarding that, about where she had to be looking through. I have this piece of information right here of about where it had to be. If only I had a map. Guess what? I got a map. Okay, so what we have here is an image from my Onyx. This red line is about where I was at when the video was taken. I know from the videos where the truck was, and I guesstimated about right where she was sitting. And I think I'm pretty good on the distances, with the margin of error being, probably somewhere around plus or minus 3 yards. I know this yellow line is like 39.9 yards. This blue line is 49.9 yards. And this purple line goes up to 56, 57, something like that. So basically, contact area is this space right here. Now, when I saw behind the truck, I saw in this space right here later on in the night. So I know that much. I know that information. So now what I got to figure out is a way of trying to get the yardage. And with a close, but what I can say is that this is somewhere in that 40 to 60 yard range. And you're going to see that I believe that it was probably the sweet spot is 50 to 60 yards away. So how can I figure out its size and distance? Well, we have known ranges. I have the camera. I'm a bow hunter. I've got laser rangefinders. So I took the camera out and had Mrs. T and Freya, our dog, and we took different shots at different yards. 10 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards, 40 yards, and 50 yards. Now, one of the things I want you to pay attention to is look at Freya. Look at her fur. She is standing somewhat out from the background, but on Red Hot, she went from basically being all red to losing all of that high contrasting red once you reach 50 yards. And when we was in research area 2, if you look back at that video, we did some with the thermal there in foggy conditions to see, what we look like at different distances. Unknown yardage, we paced them out. But you can see how the camera's reacting though. So the suspicion is right now is that, again, it's in that sweet spot of 50 yards, 50 to 60 yards. And I wish I would have done one more. But I took all that and I made a gauge. So I have, I know her height. Sorry about the microphone. I know her height, which is 5'6". Fingers extended out to the sides. That should be pretty close to 5'6" as well. Everybody's wingspan pretty much matches their height. And so with that, I made a gauge for the camera. Now taking that information and then matching those pictures up with this block and these fonts, matching it up with the size. I know you're not seeing it right now, but trust me, this is off a video because I was working it back and forth. But those are marked in the correct position. If I really need to go back and do it all over, I'll do it all over. But yeah, at 40 yards, it's about that tall. It's taller than she is. At the 50-yard range, which is where I believe it's at, well, you can see the height difference. Now, I could do the math and figure out the ratios and everything, come up with a height. Since we have a known variable here, we have a known variable here. And actually, we know the proportions here between the two. So, if we assume it's at 50 yards, we can actually figure out this thing's height, which is pretty tall. Now, remember, I said I kept checking to make sure it's not a bear. Pardon me. Well, even at 40 yards, look at the height difference. Okay. Between Freya and Mrs. T. And if that's a bear, it's Bearzilla. So, yeah, I don't think it's a bear. Once again, is it the subject that we're chasing? I can't really say that 100% because, there is a margin of error here. And, it'd be kind of nice to actually get that dialed in even closer. But I think I've done the best I can with the tools that I have. And so I'm thinking that the way it acts in the thermal, the way it looks, seeing how it's not popping red. We're talking about something that is thoroughly covered and looks a lot more like Freya than it does Mrs. T. Now, I'm sure by now everyone's like, well, it's not popping. And we're going to address that next. Real quick, I just wanted to point out I did find this handy dandy guide of black bear compared to a 6-foot tall human. Note the shoulder, not quite 36 inches or 3 foot. I also wanted to note this too. Look at the overall torso length compared to the leg length, because that's going to be something a little bit down the road in one of the other videos. So what I mean by why isn't it really popping? She's on red hot. And all that really does is add an accent color to whatever's hot out there so you can find it quickly. And that's how we like to do things. We go on that red hot, and then we switch to one of the other palettes. We never even saw this, but until, like I said, February 24th. And I think out of the reasons why it didn't pop red hot is first one's going to be distance. Because I believe it's at that 50-yard range. I think if it had been closer than 40 yards, we would have seen the red pop on it. We would have seen greater definition, and that's hard telling because this isn't my good thermal. This is that's the wrong term. This isn't our larger size sensor. This is the 284 sensor, I think it is. But the answer's in the video as far as for the second reason. And I'll turn off the light there so you can see it. Notice how everything looks fairly clean and all that. But watch what happens when the vehicle comes to a stop. Okay, see how everything got dirty? I'm going to stop the video. And I think what is happening right there is that we're getting thermal blowback in the camera. She's got the thermal in the window, holding by her hand. I don't think she's looking through it. I think she's just holding it right now. But as we're driving, that cold air is keeping things clean until we come to the stop. And once we come to the stop, the warmer air in the cabin is now, coming out across the camera, as well as there being a heat vent for defrosting the passenger side window there. And I do believe that we have those on. But like I said, if I back this up, you can actually see the change. And the other part of it is that she's really close to this mirror. And that mirror can also be causing some thermal blowback. And I'll show you another example in another video here. Okay, right here, Mrs. T spots a beaver out in the water. See how whenever she gets too close to Jen's car, she's getting thermal blowback, which is, hazing out the camera. So she takes a few steps to get away from it. She goes back to the beaver that's swimming in the water. Well, not directly, apparently. But she goes back to the water. She's watching the beaver. Once again, she got too close to the car. And she got some thermal blowback there. You see how that's happening? Right there's the beaver. But look at how he looks when that blowback happens. She loses him. And of course, later on, we have a much better example of thermal blowback. That's later on in the night, and here she's trying to look out the back of the truck through the rear sliding window with her thermal to see if there's something back there. And watch how much the cab interferes with the thermal. So like I said, and got several other indications or shows of it. So I think that's, the second reason why the figure doesn't really pop out. The third reason is a little bit more complex, and it has to do with observations. I'm just going to play one of these in the background. In those observations, have to do with the corridor. Also has to do with things I've seen while out hunting and while out watching the night. And, occasionally we catch birds that are cold. They show up cold on thermal. They're not white hot. And that has to do with their insulation from their feathers. The birds just sit there and until they reach ambient temperature, the insulation's that good of the feathers. And then they might start shedding heat later on. We captured that in Florida. I've captured that in Ohio. Blackbirds. You can go to my corridor video and look that up. It's the second one. Right off the bat, I start talking about owls. And then in November, and granted, that deer was pretty far away. She was about She was probably about 80 yards when I spotted her with my eye, but she wasn't really popping up on thermal. And I think, one, range, two, they're covered in fur, and the job of fur is to keep heat inside. And this particular deer was just sneaking through the woods because it was a peak of the rut, and she was avoiding the bucks. So, that third part, well, I'll be touching on a little bit more in depth because there is quite a bit. Thermal imagery, we treat it as being a static thing, meaning that, everything's going to pop. And when the reality of it is, it's very dynamic. When I did that thing as far as yard ranges, it's occurred to me that, that can change on conditions, foggy conditions, temperature conditions. So, whenever you get to an area, you might want to do a yard check with a thermal. So if you have to do any kind of size down the road.
The first thing I really needed to say back at the beginning of the video is that when we went back into here, as far as campers go, we were the only ones there. We passed all the campsites going in, saw nobody at those. We could see all the campsites from our campsite, saw nobody at those. And then with the exception of 2 distant campsites, which Jen went and checked the next morning, didn't see anybody at those. For the audio, the only vehicle that came in and out was the Ranger. So for all intents and purposes, we were the only ones there. Now, it is possible somebody could have walked back in there. They would have had to walk back in after 1:30 in the morning. And again, that could have been somebody walking in the woods. Who knows? People do strange things. But from 1:30 in the morning till we woke up at 8 o'clock, I see no indication of there being anybody else at the campsite. As far as audio is concerned, I only have a couple pieces to present to you. There are a lot of beaver in the area, and the beaver are making a lot of noise. They're swimming, they're creating wakes. I come to find out after doing some deep diving on the beavers that, they mark family territory a lot. They come up out of the water on their hind feet, carrying mud and whatnot, making little mounds, so that, their areas, they're marked. So we got 2 pieces of audio. I do not believe either one of them is me. First piece is going to be, it sounds like the tailgate on my truck gets manipulated. I did have the prox alarms out. None of the proximity alarms went off that night, by the way. So it does sound like something manipulated my tailgate again. But this time you hear these clickings, this strange clicking that accompanies it. And one of the reasons that I'm including it is because back in 23, we rented a cabin and something came up on that porch. And you hear the same thing. This is, I think it's the same night I heard something tapping at the window. Something came up on the porch. You hear this clicking, and then you hear what sounds like bipedal running down across the porch and down the steps. So I'm including that, and then the last piece, we discussed it. We think it, at first we thought it was a bullfrog till we started checking temperatures. It could still be a bullfrog. Don't know. It's some kind of vocal. It's not me. And it does sound kind of humanish, but like I said, while the one person looked at the audio, they believe they're hearing a canoe. I don't believe. I have no reason to believe there's a canoe in the area. I think what we have is a lot of beaver coming in, going back and forth in the water. Just like, the sounds that I heard of fishing reel bales closing. I heard those while we were still awake once I started going through the review deep. And I believe, once again, I believe that bail sound is something that the beavers are doing with their tails on land. Excuse me. So, yeah, I think the beaver, combination of beaver sounds, some of our sleeping sounds, make it a bit difficult. Before I go, I just want to say that I'm going to be uploading this material, and I will make it available to certain people. Some people you'd be surprised have already seen it. Let them see my findings. Let them look at my work. Let them look at everything that I have here. I do have some people out there still that are looking at it. I haven't received everything back, so if something stellar really pops up, I'll do an update. If this winds up being, just somebody living out in the woods, hermit style, I'll let you know. Science is open ended, and these, for me, are each video I do is open ended. So, in closing, what are my personal thoughts on this? Did we encounter a legendary creature? Maybe. All I can say for sure is that there appears to be something bipedal walking through the woods in the dark, and it appears to move without much limitation or issue. It's thermal. Unfortunately, it's 284 sensor thermal. If it had been closer, if it had been better, I think things would have been more definitive. But the truth of the matter is, I've presented uh, the best argumentation I have just for it being, a bipedal creature. My argumentation for whether or not it's Sasquatch, well, problem is it's thermal. A really good, high sensor thermal, 300, the 400 or the 600 sensors, um, would have been a better choice. But, like I said, my 384 sensor, 385, whatever it is, The memory was full on it, so it wasn't a choice at the time. Uh, you know, is it good evidence? It sure would have been nice if I would have known about this on the spot and then, focused. Actually, I should have focused on both this. I really didn't have a way to see this. I should have had with me a way to see this at the time because we didn't have a laptop. I was hoping somebody else would have a laptop and that would allow me to download the videos and keep on recording at all times. But that's just the way it worked out. I didn't have any of those items with me. Not fully prepared, I guess, for lack of a better word. So, I mean, we've taken steps that we can now download and view things in the field. Yeah. And, did a lot of education because the next day is going to take my attention away from going back behind and looking behind the truck for anything. Because I may have found, something supportive, anything supportive. But yeah, I mean that's the big crutch, right? Not checking anything until you get back home, and it's February, October, November, December, January, February. 5 months later, almost 6 months later, before you check your captures, and then it's like, oh, there appears to be something there. But this trip, we really invested in upping our game. And like I said, before seeing this video, man, I was pretty down on the subject. I've had my experiences, but it started to occur to me that I might not ever have anything like that happen again. And I may be looking at an uphill battle that just can't be climbed. I think we have something here. We'll see you down the road.